Live with the community, this is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development Biweekly Call. Today is June 9th. My name is David Warner with the PnP team and Microsoft, and I will be your host. Let's take a look at our agenda for the day. We're going to get the latest on a number of PnP initiatives, Frame and Core SDK extensions, PnP PowerShell, yoteams, MGT, or Microsoft Graph Toolkit, independent publisher controls. We're going to see the latest on a number of sample repositories, script samples, team samples, Power Platform samples, and then what time will it be? Picture time, everybody's favorite time. And then we're going to see an amazing collection of demos for the day from fantastic presenters, all-stars in the community, Nandeep and Smita Nachin, Andre and Paolo on independent publisher control connectors for Sessionize, list formatting with payment registration, and then understanding Sites.Selected permissions in SharePoint Online. There are a ton of opportunities for you to get involved in the community, and we would love to see you do that. One of those ways is demoing or providing a technical pattern or solution on one of these calls. We invite anyone and everyone that has a sample or would like to show off something that they've created to the community to participate in these calls by providing a demo and or a presentation. You can do that by requesting a demo spot at the URL aka.ms/m365pnp/request/demo. You could also save and share those samples with the community via GitHub. And if you're not quite sure how to do that, we've got some programs in store for you to take advantage of. And you're always welcome to provide feedback. We'd like to know what could work better, what you do like that you'd like to see more of. Please provide as much criticism and constructive feedback as you would like. And we love the kudos as well. Now, there are a number of resources available for you in the community. The first two on this pillar slide is videos. We've got developer videos and community videos. You can access both of them. Some are created by Microsoft and some are created by you in the community. They are all fantastic and available for you to take advantage of. The open source initiatives are plentiful as well that range from SharePoint to Office Dev to Microsoft Graph. And as mentioned, we have a plethora of sample repositories for you that you can take advantage of to learn how to accomplish a number of tasks, perhaps to jumpstart a new project, or simply to see how the community is using the functionality of the resources that are available to us in the community. You can see them for web parts, Power Platform, extensions, list formatting, ACEs, teams. There is no lack of samples for you, and you do not have to remember all of those URLs. There is simply one for you to find all of these resources available at. That is ak.ms/m365/community. Now, this is not the only call available to you. In fact, there are a number of calls that you can take advantage of, community-driven. The first one is Microsoft 365 Platform. Now, this is a weekly call. This is actually coming directly from Microsoft. All of the presenters are Microsoft program managers or product managers. So you're getting the information direct from the source. aka.ms/m365-dev-call. Now, just as of a note, there will be a summer break on that call. It occurs on Tuesday every week, but between July 1st and August 31st, there will be a break. It will still be on your calendar. That consecutive calendar invite is always persistent. We're not going to change that, but just know that that will be on a break during the summer. There are additional calls for adaptive cards, Microsoft Identity, Office add-ins, the monthly Power Platform call, which is next week, and then, of course, the bi-weekly calls, one of which you're on right now, the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call, and then the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call. Again, you can access all of these calls from aka.ms/m365-calls. And looking at one of those for next week, which is the Microsoft 365 platform, on the 14th, Rabib, Misa, and Greg will be covering information on Microsoft Graph Postman, Microsoft Graph.NET SDK v5, and the latest on deprecating basic auth available to you. That is going to be on the 14th of June next week. Now, all of these programs are available to you to contribute to, and you may not quite be sure where to get started. So the Sharing is Caring program is a program that is here to provide you hands-on guidance on getting involved in the community. Now, that could be providing your first sample. That could be getting some tips and tricks to present on this or any of the community calls. It could be on writing for the web, or it may be you want to learn about Power Pages, one of the newest products announced at Build. These are hands-on sessions that are going to provide live, safe space opportunities for you to learn and collaborate with other members of the community. They're not recorded, they're absolutely free, and they are interactive. So you're free to ask any and all questions you would like without fear of it being recorded or wondering, should I be asking this question? You absolutely should, and these are the opportunities for you to do that. Don't hesitate to sign up. We've got multiple sessions in play as well as scheduled for you to take advantage of, and we would love to see you there so that we could work together on a variety of topics and help each other in the community. Once you have contributed, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work you're doing. So the recognition program has been set up to provide official and accredited celebration of the work that you're doing, powered by Credly. Yes, that's the same Credly that provides you those badges when you get certified by Microsoft. These badges will sit right alongside those, as well as you're able to associate them to your LinkedIn profile, put them on your website, throw them up on the fridge, share them with clients and your managers, let them know that you're making a difference, and it's a way to be recognized and a little way for us to give back to you and celebrate the work that you're doing. So we really appreciate all that you're doing, and we just need you to opt in for these. It is no cost, absolutely free, but we need you to provide your information so we can tie how you're contributing to the community back to the program and get those badges out to you once you've made those contributions. Now let's dive into some of our initiatives, and the first one is PnP.NET libraries, and for that we'll hand it over to Bert.
Thank you, David. In the PnP.NET space, we have two libraries, PnP Framework. The older one, PnP PowerShell, is the newer library. On the framework side, we merged about 10 PRs from Miguel, Eduard, Patrick, Ricardo, Gautam, Daniel, and Andre. So mainly smaller fixes, small improvements, quite often focused on the provisioning engine. So thanks, guys, for doing that. You always think like the provisioning engine is feature complete, but people keep on finding new things to add or small things to fix. So really great stuff that we get those contributions in. On the CoreSDK side, I want to call out a couple of things. First, we have support for document sets. So in Graph, a while ago, we introduced the APIs for working with document sets, and these have been mapped into PnP CoreSDK. So you can just use document sets like any other PnP CoreSDK approach. You don't have to understand the Graph approach or the CSIM or REST things. You just use it, it works. And that was done by Matthijs Verbeek. Thanks for that, Matthijs. Furthermore, event receiver support on sites. We had it on list, now we also have it on sites. These are the classic event receivers. Support for group creation. So when you create a site in PnP CoreSDK, you just say this site using a certain permission type, and under the covers it will use REST, Graph, or CSOM to make the site, depending on what types of site that you want. And there was one lacking area that was app-only group connected team sites, which is now covered, and some various other smaller improvements and fixes. We plan to do a new release of PnP Framework, CoreSDK, and PowerShell by the end of the month before we all leave on our long summer holiday. So you guys get have a new version to play with during summertime. And with that, I think let's move to Gautam for the PowerShell update. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bert. Yep, on the PnP PowerShell side, train is running towards the 1.11 release that we are hopefully will release before by the end of the June. So what is coming in the nightly is that we added the ability to restart a flow run. So sometimes the flow would fail and you would want to restart that flow. So we added this capability called restart PnP flow run. So you can just retry that failed run. We also added the ability to retrieve item level permissions. So like SharePoint list items, and you can get list item levels permissions for that particular item. And we also have improved the get PnP term commandlet. So by default, it doesn't return any deprecated terms. But now if you want, you can just specify whether you want that. And we give you back the deprecated terms as well. Besides that, there are a lot of improvements on the connect PnP online command itself, like various better switching between the site collections, as well as more validation and the storing of the connection objects as well. Besides that, bug fixes and improvements continue. And if you have anything in your mind, just let us know on the issue list or in the discussions forums. Thanks, and over to you, David.
Awesome, thank you, Gautam. All right, next up is yoteams. Version 4 is imminent. It's still imminent. It's pending an issue with the new Teams.js SDK, but we look forward to this new version, and you can take advantage of learning more about yoteams at aka.ms/yoteams, the Teams app generator. So definitely take advantage of learning more about that. Next up is Microsoft Graph Toolkit, and we'll hand it over to Sebastian Levert.
Awesome. Thank you, David. So, folks, for the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, no big updates, couple of reminders. We shipped our version 2.5 2 or 3 weeks ago. That includes all the latest integrations with the Teams FX capabilities. So we now have like our authentication providers that allows you to build Teams FX applications directly with MGT, all hooked up with a single one-liner of authentication, which is really, really, really cool. Still inviting you to try our new PWA. If you want to check out what is MGT and play with it, go to our playground and install that as a progressive web app so you can have it on your desktop all the time. You can use it. We're still looking for help. There are some couple of good first issues in our repo. There's also feedback requests on some of the specs that we're currently building. And feel free to join into the discussion, aka.ms/MGT. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Seb. And next up, we're going to have a regular update on independent publisher connectors. So we'll invite Natalie to give us that update.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. So just want to call out that we have, well, first of all, independent publisher connectors are Power Platform connectors that can be submitted by anyone. You don't actually have to own the API for the connector that you're submitting to. So right now we have 48 awesome independent publishers, very close to 50 actually, and we've surpassed 130 independent publisher connectors. We're at 132 right now in production. These past 2 weeks so far, we got 4 new connectors. We have MS Graph Groups and Users by Jay Johnny, Regex Matching by Mitanshu Garg, and 2 connectors by Troy Taylor, Meme, and Unofficial Netflix Search. We also have 1 update to existing connectors. GoQR was actually built by Rui. He came to demo the connector a few months back, but Woong has added an update to it. So it's awesome to see people collaborating on even connectors that they didn't build. In terms of what you can do, you can become an independent publisher. We actually do have a nice long list of top connector asks for the Power Platform. Feel free to check out our GitHub repository. It'll show you how to get started in terms of building a connector, becoming an independent publisher, and submitting the connector into that repository. So having a connector to start with will make that easier. Also, just want to call out that the next Power Platform Labs call is on June 29th at 11 a.m. ET. If you want to want me to forward you the invite, totally can. Just call out in the chat. Otherwise, you can also just join us at aka.ms/Power Platform Integration Labs at that time. The goal here is to learn not only anything to do with like connectors and integrations, but just a lot of other topics such as gateways, webhook triggers. We had a session on that. So it's a great way to learn, especially if you're not familiar with these topics, but also learn more advanced specific topics, even if you have a foundation. So everyone is welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Next up is one of our newest repository sample opportunities, script samples. I'll be covering this for Paul Bullock, but he has amazingly managed this. There are new scenarios for CLI for Microsoft, Copy Planner, Plan by Million, a number of new scenarios for Microsoft 365 scripts, as well as PnP PowerShell. We want to thank all of our submitters here and contributors, Matthias, JC, Nandeep, JC again, Milan, Smita, Reshmi, amazing work. You can learn more at aka.ms/script samples. Next up, we'll invite Bob German to cover Microsoft Teams samples.
Great. Hi, thanks everyone. So today on the call, Parker, the precocious porcupine PnP mascot, has made some popcorn because he's watching movies using Marcus Moller's newly submitted and accepted tab meeting stage view movie sample. This is a really cool demo or sample. What it does is it shows you how to, it's an app, it's a meeting app. Everybody can join the meeting. They can view some movie choices on the side, and then whoever votes for whichever movie collects the most votes, everyone can watch together during in the main stage view. But not only is this a really cool and collaborative concept and kind of could lead to all kinds of watch parties and other things, but it also uses the Microsoft Fluid framework. This is the API that drives Microsoft Loop and synchronizes things so that you can actually be in a meeting and the app is actually talking to the other people's apps in the meeting and coordinating things like playing movies and stuff. So really, really cool. We're going to have to get Marcus on to demo this. You can find it at the URL listed there, which is aka.ms tab meeting stage view vote movie. And there's also a detailed blog article up on Marcus's blog. So he's really outdone himself on that. And please check out all the samples at the URL below. And I'll pass it back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Very, very cool stuff. Next up is Power Platform samples. And now this is a sample repository that covers the entire Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Effects, Power BI, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, and soon, coming soon to a repo near you, I see Hugo smiling with glee, Power Pages. You can learn how to contribute to this repository in the next Sharing is Caring on Wednesday, June 29th. So we invite anyone and everyone to come take advantage of that. Some really cool things to learn. Well, what time is it? Picture time. So we'll hand it over to Vesa to take a snapshot or a moving snapshot of everyone showing their best smiles.
Excellent. So can you hear me, by the way? Just double checking.
Sounds great.
Excellent. And you should be seeing the screen. I'm already recording. Let's wait for the 50 people to join. I will put my camera on from the laptop as well. So let's see how this actually moves. No, one more seat. There we go. Bert got the final seat. No, there's still seats. I guess that's it for now. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. I even got to the screen. Excellent. We have a full house today, 50 seats on the house. Thank you for joining once again on the community, and great example there, Todd, on the back row. So really, really good job on there. Thanks, everybody. We'll grab a clip animation out of that as well. And let's go to the stars of today.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Excellent. All right. Well, as mentioned, we have 3 fantastic demos by 4 amazing contributors. Our first is Nandeep and Smita on independent publisher connectors with a Sessionize demo. So Nandeep and Smita, take it away.
Yep, thank you. Let me share my screen.
Hello, everyone. It is nice to be here to present our independent publisher Power Platform Connector work. And thank you for the opportunity. So Sessionize is the smart way to manage a call for papers, speakers, and agenda for your conference. So these connectors helps to connect with the Sessionize to get the conference-related information about the speakers, their sessions, and conference agenda. So this connector can be used with Power Apps, Power Automate, and Logic Apps. So myself, Smita Nachal, I'm a Microsoft MVP for Office Development category based in Pune, India. And I'm privileged to have this connector developed along with Nandeep Nasan, who is also a Microsoft MVP for Office apps and services. So here are our social media handlers to get in touch with us for any later discussions. And with the availability of our Power Platform connector, we are now proudly on this badge of an independent publisher. And thank you PnP community for this recognition. So now talking about this specific Sessionize connector. So the Sessionize is a very well-known service used by various communities across the world to manage their conferences, speakers, and schedule. So this connector does not need any authentication. So once it is set up, this connector supports actions to get the list of sessions for your conference, get a list of speakers for your conference. So the reason why we have developed this connector is for our own use case. So as a part of community collaboration, we run a local user group called the Pune Tech Community. As a part of our community initiative, we organize various events across the year. We open a call for speakers, invite the speakers to talk on diverse topics, build the agenda, and publish the free event for everyone to join. And a couple of things that we have to commonly perform as a part of our event organizing are share the conference agenda to the attendees by email, ask for conference speaker, which will help attendees to get the information on speakers and the topics they are presenting at the event. So let us explore both these use cases in a demo.
So just going into the demo, before we use the Sessionize connector, there are few prerequisites that we need to ensure at the Sessionize end. So let me just go into the Sessionize. So this is the Sessionize screen. Here we see the two spots, organizer and speaker. So for the sessions that you organize or for the conferences that you organize, just go into that conference and here you will be able to see all of the speakers, sessions and everything. One thing that we need to make sure to run this connector is that this once you go into the API part, make sure that you are pointing your APIs to use JSON format. By default, this one will be using embed style HTML so that you can embed your Sessionize information into your website. But go ahead and then just change that to JSON. Once you do that, just click onto the get code, and here you will be able to see all of those endpoints. For example, grid smart, sessions and speakers. So we are going to use these two endpoints, session list and speaker list. All right. So now that let us see how we will be able to use this in a Power Apps app. Okay. So now that I'm into the Power Apps portal, I will just go ahead and create a blank app, and then I will just call it as a conference demo. Click create, and then once we create. Okay, so we'll just use this create gallery, and then in this create gallery, we will go ahead and use the data source of the Sessionize connector. All right, so you will be able to see that. Just search for that, and this one will be here. So once we have got that, then in the items, we will go ahead and use that connector. So even if you keep typing Sessionize, you will be able to see all of the listing of methods we have available from there. So I will just go ahead and get these speakers. One thing that it needs is the ID of your session. So in that case, you will be able to take it again by going back to your API/embed, and this is the ID that we need to pick up. So just take this ID, pass it on to this method, get speakers, and then we should be able to get all of the speakers information. So now that you can see that it is populating, only thing that we will have to use the data from that connector. So I will just go ahead and type this item dot profile picture to get the profile picture of the speakers, and then I will again type this item dot full name probably here to get the name of the speaker, and then again I will here change this one to this item dot tagline so that we'll be able to see the tagline of the speaker. So now that we quickly have that information coming for all of the speakers that we have got, next thing what we will do is that again we will go ahead and add another grid here. So or probably let me just quickly do one thing. Right. Okay. So we will go ahead and try to add another thing here, or let me just do one thing for quick thing. I will just copy paste this grid as it is, or this gallery as it is. All right. And then what we want to do now is that whenever we will select the user or the speaker from the left hand side, we want to see all of the sessions from that particular user onto the right hand side. So for that, again, we have the other thing ready with us, which is get sessions. So we will go ahead and hit that endpoint. Instead of get speakers, I will just make it as a get sessions. Okay, so now that we should be able to get all of the sessions, but it is not just that, we need to do some kind of an filtering so that we'll be able to get sessions specific to this particular user. So for that, we will make use of something called as a lookup. So lookup is a function which helps us to find the first record in the table that satisfies this formula. So we'll use that lookup and we will pass it on the information about the group name equal to all, because if you have a look at the schema which is generated by that, you will be able to see that all kind of a group name has got all of those sessions associated with that. So we'll get that, and then what we will do next is we will just filter it out, everything based on the left hand side selection that we make for our speaker. So I will go ahead, and then in the left hand side we also have got a few of the IDs which we'll be able to use. for the speaker. So I will just pick up that particular ID, and which is in the gallery of gallery 1.selected. It should give us the selected item, and then we will simply pick up the sessions that we have got from that speaker, and then the ID again. So this way, what it should do is it should be able to give us all of the result. Probably looks like I have made some mistake here. Let me just check it out quickly. This one is a lookup, get sessions, which is fine. All right, okay. If in case this doesn't work, looks like demo is not with me today. What I will do is probably I will just click on back, and I will show you to that quickly. So I'm again back to my Power Apps, and then just here I already have created another demo to show it to you. Probably I will just switch to that particular environment and show that demo. All right, so looks like I don't have it here. Okay, but at least maybe luck is not my way today, but that is the way like all those events works. If I, for example, go to my events, we'll be able to see that. Like firstly, we will have a lookup onto all of the sessions, and then we will filter out the sessions based on the user selection from the left. So let it load, and then I will be able to show it to you. All right, so it is loading. And then now that we have all of the sessions speakers onto the left hand side, as I make a selections onto the right hand side, you can see the same sessions which are being given by those users will be seen from here. So that was quickly like how we can use this Sessionize connector with Power Apps. Let me just also show you how we'll be able to use that in the Power Automate. So in the Power Automate, what we will do is we will go ahead and create one instant cloud flow. The idea behind this is now that we want to probably send the agenda to everyone who are our attendees, and then make them aware about these sessions. So I will just call it as a send agenda. Quickly click on create here. And then in the new step, we will just call it as the Sessionize. We will again go ahead and choose the Sessionize, and then from here we will get all the sessions. So we'll click on get sessions. To this, we will have to pass the ID of our Sessionize, which is this one. So we'll just pass it on, so that now that we'll have all of the sessions with us. Quickly, I will go and add the create HTML table, which is another activity that we have got. Now that we want to formulate all of the sessions that we have into the HTML table. So in the form, I will select all of those sessions. Now that we have all those sessions formulated into an HTML table, we'll go ahead, click on add an action. And then from here, we will simply send the emails to our attendees. So just to make it simple, I will just send it to myself, send me an email notification. In the subject line, I will just type agenda, and in the body, I will just pick up the output from the HTML table, and that's it. Let us save this and then run this, and then we should be able to receive the email, and in that email there should be a formulated list of sessions that being run for that particular conference. So the use case here is that simply we'll be able to use this connector along with the Power Automate, so that we can send out the agenda to our attendees so that they can have a look at it. Okay, so this is the agenda that we have received here. Again, it is not the entirely formatted result in the table that we have got, but we can make those efforts and then make it a good looking table so that we can send that agenda to everyone, and then they will be able to see all of the sessions and the speakers. So that was a quick demo about how we can use the Sessionize connector in Power Apps as well as Power Automate. So thank you for giving us this opportunity, and here are our social media handlers. If you want to get in touch with us, discuss more about this, happy to have that conversation. Thank you. Back to you, David.
All right, now, Deep, thank you and Smita both for providing that information today. Really cool how you're able to connect that in with very little effort using that connector. So well done. Andre, would you like to go ahead and take over?
It's okay. I'm starting to share.
Take it away.
So, hi, my name is Andre Lage. I work for a Swiss company that is called Datalinks, and this is my social information where you can reach me and to make some associated questions regarding the presentation that I'm going to do today. So what is the goal here? The idea here is to, using the list formattings and the templates, try to make some additional extension and try to use what is already out there, and try to improve it with some different type of user experience, with some business rules associated on the top of that. So what is the first thing? First thing is always what I say in every project. We do some part of consultancy, and we always try to answer the 5 main questions: what, who, when, why, and what situation itself. And for that, the first area is try to identify what is out there that we can use and analyze, and can we improve it itself. And for that, I identify, for example, the expense tracker template that is already provided by lists, and I will try to include some additional features itself that I'm going to describe. The other thing that I thought that was really important, and the majority of the people like also to have, is the definition of rules. In this case, the cost limits. If we reach some type of value, imagine more than 1,000 or 2,000, then we should trigger some type of flow. And this is what I also would like to show, where we can, using the list formatting and plus some additional formulas, we can also create some additional flows on the top of that. And then we have the features on the top of the solution that I'm going to provide with the customer formatting itself. And this will be the file picker, using the locations with the Bing maps. Also, I have a specific view for payment timelines view, and also adapt the user interface that we have from the list that also fits the mobile view itself. I also want to use the integration with the SharePoint page, with the filters, using the Power Automate with the JSON to start the flows, and also use the edited tip card where we can make our approval process of the rules that I took it before. So what I did, it's nothing more than pick what is already there, try to see what is on the templates, and for us, when we need to work with lists and we need to have a better user interface, we try to pick what is already out there with this Excel look and feel, and we try to change the look and feel that becomes more user interactive. And for that, I propose in this type of approach, that in this case I call it payment registration, because it can be payment registration on the family or the company, and I just try to be a little more broad, where we have one initial interface where we have the ability to see what is the entries, what is the costs, what is the currency that we have it. And when we click on the title, we have a card that will give us the better description, what was the amount spent, what is the document expense that was made, what is the rating that we give it for the moment that we make this expense, a little description, and also the location that can also redirect us on Bing's where was this location bot itself. Another thing that I included was on this area here. So I just want to include it here. We just include one additional area that can trigger the expense, and basically with this flow will send an adaptive card that you can to a specific channel that they can approve or reject, and then the workflow will send it back and do some actions. So returning to our current card itself. So the first area that we have is a category area where we can define what is the icon for the type of action that, or in this case, the registration that we made. We have, for example, the invoice that we can also provide some type of interface, the total, for example, that how much we expend, and also on the top of the expansion that we did, that, for example, we went to the supermarket, and to reach that, we also need to include the expense of the taxi. We can also include some sub costs on the top of this main operation itself. We have the payment currency, we have the ability to expand and collapse, and then we have some main operations like, for example, the moment we paid doesn't mean the money went out, and we can also control these actions itself if we do it when the payment is made with success. We also can rate it, and we can define the location where was made this payment itself. So on the card, we have a little more description and more detail that can be easily identified, that we don't need to navigate between different pages itself. So we have the same type of information, but more compressed and easy to be accessible itself. And then we have the ability to create the flow. And the flow is, for example, I create a rule. If we have more big expenses bigger than 1,000, automatically will appear a red light with one specific new icon that appears here that we need to trigger a workflow, and this will send it to the channel where is a bunch of administrators that will analyze and they will approve it or not itself. And this is the update card that the channel will receive it. They will make an analysis of the content and then they will take some decisions. The moment they approve it or they reject it, the status will be changed based on the information that was going to be given. I will give an example later on. And then comes for the features that I'll talk about. So the first one is the file picker. So the file picker is nothing more than one option that we can sell. Basically what we'll do, we'll call a different tab where is the document library with the files, and then we just copy the link to the document itself, and then I store the link to the item itself where we have this link. And when we need to have access, we just need to click it, and then we access to the view items of that specific document directly on SharePoint itself. The second one is the ability to use the embedded URL parameters from Bings, and also the URL parameters that we can customize how the Bings maps will appear. For example, for this presentation, I remove every reference, for example, for restaurants, locations, that becomes more clean and doesn't appear at different locations. And I only put some main areas that you can easily identify, like the Eiffel Tower and the Pyramid of Giza itself. And here I also have how I'm doing the call. Basically, it's nothing more than making an embedded, a URL that will call the map itself with the parameters from latitude and longitude itself, and then the map will appear there. I will also show. This is the payment timeline. I'm ordered by the moment that was paid, what is the category of payment, the description, and I also have the card that I'm also going to show it later on. And then the adaptation of the view. We have one that will be used for desktop, and the second one that will be adapted for the mobile view. You can use it and move it left and right, and you see that will be very similar to the other apps that you already have on your mobile phone, and you have the same type of interaction itself. So let's go to the example. So I'm just going to change to my site, and this is my initial homepage itself. As you can see, we already have some data information and some views. The ones that I'm going to work will be based on this area here. So what will be the first action? The first action is to create a new item. So what I have done, I have an iframe that will call the new item form itself. And here we'll say travel, well, business travel to place XXX. So I will put it here, and then I will say travel expense. I will define, for example, an air ticket, and the cost was 450. And we can define other costs, but we can put at this later on. And we can also define what will be the color. We can define what will be the location and what will be the rate. In this case, I'm just going to keep it here, and I will going to save it. Okay, I have it here, and then I'm just going to access to my view. As you can see here, that there is already one action, and in this case, this is travel. And because I didn't say when this payment was done, I can always access and define when was the payment. In this case, I have the travel, I have the cost, and I also have I should have the amount. And in this case, I put it in the incorrect area. So I will say I have the initial cost of, for example, minus 450 Swiss francs. And this will automatically give me. And also to reach the airport, I have some additional costs that I can also include it. Oh, okay, taxi travel. And I will say this took me from home to the airport, took me around 50 Swiss francs. And then we can have a calculation process. At any moment we can have only view the initial information, but if we want to have it more details, we can always expand it when you have more details itself. So another thing that we can say, okay, the trip itself went with a free point, and where that we went. So for example, I can define Eiffel Tower. Let's see if this will help me, and of course will never do when I need it. Okay, I have it here. And when I click it, basically I will pop up and he will tell me the city, the country, and where it's located. If I need to know exactly on the location where it was spotted itself, basically this will open a new tab where I can see, okay, This is in France, and this is one of the monuments from there. As I can, like I said it, I remove on the using the URLs, I remove all the parameters that can be identify the locations itself. And this is very simple, where we can detail more information. How can we associate the expenses that I have it? So I have a button on here, and basically what it's going to do is going to call the document library itself. And from here we can define some why I wanted to use, for example, not this one here, why I want to use I want to call a document library and not the image field. The reason is I want to keep the business logic where the documents are needed. For example, if I need to store it in a folder that is associated with this year, I can always associate this folder, and I will put the document there. And then the only thing I need to do is to copy the link, and I will copy and then return to my area. And here I will call it, I will save it, and then I have the image association with the document itself. When I call it, I will be redirected to the visualization of the document itself, where I can do the association areas. And I can always return back, and I always can click on the card, and I have all the actions that I did before can easily be seen directly here. Okay, and this is the main properties and characteristics we can do our business rules. Imagine the cost that you have it for the travel was increased, and we have to say, oh, this is more than 1,500 Swiss francs. In this case, as you can see here, there is a new button that means, oh, okay, stop. We need to send this to management or to someone else who needs to approve. And for that, I have here a flow action that I will go to call. And it's going to load just one few seconds. I'm sorry for this. And then run the flow. In theory, what will happen in the Teams, I'm just going to access it. I have here the card associated, and the user, and this will be the channel that will access here. So all the users who have access to this channel means they have the ability to approve and to review all the costs. And at any moment, they can click it directly on the document, on the location, and they will be also redirected to the where I was being and what is the document associated. And that's why I wanted to keep I want to call the library, pick the file, and because to keep the business structure of the document there, and not only to attach don't use as an attachment, or even to use the image one that create a separate folder, but without a business logic associated. And for this case, I'm going just to reject. I have a justification why you need to reject. This travel was not approved. And then I just need to send the reason back. Just going to send it back. I have the answer. I'm just going to return. And when I return back, I have an image saying that was rejected and with the business justification itself. And this is the flow that we can also associate it. And of course, at any moment, we can, like I shared it with the flows. If we want to have a better description of the maps itself, we have here an embedded area, and we can always associate the location that the user was and can access it itself. So, and with these all different areas, we can have the ability to have all these different visualizations itself. And any moment, and here is something that we can also associate. We have here the timelines. We have here the description, we have the view, and we can make the filters itself. And this is basically the presentation that I want to say. This samples is located in the repository. And one last information is, please, all these things that you see from other presentations that you use on the list formatting and you want to make your customizations, there is a link that you can send some feedback that you can improve the Microsoft list information. Plus, these samples are already located in the list formatting repository. David, that's everything from my side, and I hope you have some time.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. This is really, really cool stuff. Amazing how far list formatting has come. Thank you. Next up is Paolo Pialorsi on Understanding Sites.Selected Permission in SharePoint Online. Paolo, take it away.
Thank you, David, and welcome everyone. Yes, now we're going to talk about how we can use the new site-selected permission that we have in Azure Active Directory in order to access SharePoint Online content. So let me briefly explain you what the context is, and then I will move to the demo environment. So most likely, most of us were used to use the app-reg-new page to register through ACS and through the old school SharePoint admin model, client IDs and secrets in order to be able to access specific site collections or specific content with specific permissions. Because in the past, it was only possible to use for example, if we wanted to do an application running in background with an application-only access mode, was only possible to use the site.fullcontrol.all permission in order to access all of the content in a SharePoint Online tenant. And this was not the preferred option from a security office point of view and from a security point of view, generally speaking, and not only from the security office point of view. Nowadays, we can also use a new kind or a new flavor of permission called Sites.Selected, which is available both for Microsoft Graph and for SharePoint Online. It is an application permission. And through that permission, we can then select, as the name implies, we can select the site collections where we want to have access, and we can then use either Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft Graph SDK, or CSOM and REST, and eventually the PnP SDK to access the target site collection by selecting only the site collection that we want to manage and we want to edit in our solution. So how does it work and what do we need to do in order to satisfy the requirements? Well, first of all, we need an admin to grant the selected permissions to the target application, which is reasonable. Otherwise, it will be an hack of the tenant. So we need a global administrator or an application with the site full control.all permission, or a site collection administrator or the site collection where we want to grant the permission, the selected permission for the target app. When we do that, we grant the permission using a graph endpoint, which is available under the sites endpoint, followed by the site ID/permissions. And through that endpoint, we can grant, we can revoke, or we can update permission grants to specific applications which have the Sites.Selected permission configured in Azure Active Directory. We can also grant those permissions using the PnP PowerShell commandlet that you see right here. So grant, get, revoke, or set PnP Azure ID app site permission. And the permission that we can grant using SPO, CSOM, and REST are read, write, manage, and full control. So basically, if you want to create a solution which will run in the background with application only, you can now do that just selecting a specific site collection as the target and not anymore being forced to provide the permission to access all of the site collection, the whole tenant, which was not really good in the past. So let me try to show you how it works through a demo. And so I will switch to my demo environment and show you something in action. So first of all, here we have an Azure Active Directory application registered, which I pre-registered in my environment. It is a really regular one. There's nothing special. But if we go to the API permission sections, we can see that here we have under the Microsoft Graph a permission of type application, which is with scope Sites.Selected, as you can see. And the same we have for SharePoint, still an application permission called Sites.Selected. When we access Microsoft Graph with application only, we can use the client secrets and the client credentials. So under certificates and secret, we have our client ID and we have the client secret that we can use to access with an app-only token the target API. From a SharePoint Online point of view, if we want to access SharePoint Online with app-only mode, we need an X509 certificate, and that's why in this application I also configured an auto-generated X509 certificate. Then I created, for the sake of explaining you how these new site-selected permission work, I created two different site collections. One is called Site-Selected Granted Site, meaning that this is the site where I explicitly granted the permission to access the content for my application. And then I have another one which is called Site-Selected Not granted site, which is a site collection where I did not grant the permissions to my application, so that we will be able to see that we can easily access and consume the content of this site collection, but we will not be able to do the same against this one because we are not granted, we didn't have the grant of the permission. So how do we access the target site collections? I have a demo which is built using .NET and using either the Graph SDK or the PnP libraries. And first of all, we will see how to use Graph. So we have a method called consume SPO selected site via Graph. I simply provide the URL of the target site so that I can use it twice, targeting the good one and the bad one. So the one where I have the grant and the one where I don't have the grant of the permission. And in this method, I simply use MSAL and the Graph SDK to access the target environment. So I say that I want to get for the specific tenant, client ID and client secret, my credentials, which I will provide to the constructor of the Graph Service Client in the Graph SDK, so that I can then say, okay, give me the site collection that I want to access, and I will try to create a new list in the target site because I want to show you that I can manage the content and I can basically be the admin of the target site collection if I have the permission granted. And in fact, I can get a new list. I can add the new list to the list of lists that I have in my site, and I will be able to do that in the granted site, not in the other one. And the same thing can be done also using the SPO approach. I will explain you the code and then run the application at once. So here I have another method which will rely on the PnP libraries just for the sake of simplicity. And here I'm using the authentication manager that we have to create a client context of PnP so that we can use the X509 certificate with all of the information that I need to create the context. And then we can simply say, okay, load the current user and let's see if the current user is an admin, just for the sake of showing you the output. And then using CSOM, I can create a new list creation information object and I can add it to the list of sites through CSOM. And then I execute the query asynchronous using the PnP framework. So let me run this application. Let me show you the output. I will just run it with Control F5, and here I'm dragging the UI. So here you can see we start consuming the site where we have the granted permission. Here you see successfully added a list to the SPO site with selected permission and using Graph. Then I try to do the same with the site where I don't have the granted permission, and I see that I get an access denied. And the same applies when I do this, the same thing using the CSOM approach and the PnP library approach. So I can access the site where I was granted the permission and I am an admin of that site, and I cannot access the site where I don't have the grant of the permission. And in fact, if I go back here and go to site contents, we can see that in this site, we have a new generated via CSOM, generated via Microsoft Graph lists created in this site, while in the other one, I don't have any list created because I don't have the permission to do that. So how did I grant the permissions to my app? Well, using PnP PowerShell, which is the easiest way, in my opinion, I simply connect to the target environment. So contact PnP Online, I provide the URL of the site and eventually the credentials with whatever technique you like. And then once I am connected to the target site, and I simply need to be a site collection administrator of the target site, I can grant to the application that I want to target, and this ID is the client ID of my application right here in Azure Active Directory. Okay, so I say grant to that application the permission to, for example, write the target site collection. The options that I have are read and write when I grant, but I can later on update, and I can even use the full control permission, so that basically we can start with an initial grant of a write permission, and then we can make an elevation of permissions with the update, the set method, the set commandlet, sorry, and we can configure the full control permission so that we don't need to be a tenant administrator. We don't need a tenant administrator. We just need to be a site collection administrator. And once someone created and configured the application with the sites.selected permission in Azure Active Directory, just being the site collection administrator, we can grant specific permissions to our target application, and we can run background tasks or application running with application-only token and consuming and managing the target site collection. That's all for me. Back to you, David, and thank you.
Awesome, Paolo. Thank you very much for that. Really, really cool stuff. All right, well, we want to wrap it up. Say thank you to all of our amazing presenters today, Nandeep and Smita, Andre and Paolo. Excellent call, everyone. Really appreciate the conversation in the chat as well. Recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Community YouTube channel, aka.ms/m365/videos. You can subscribe on that YouTube channel to get updates and alerts when the new videos are posted. You may see in the Teams chat it is available and ready for download. It is not if you are not already in the Microsoft ecosystem. So don't let that fool you. You do want to go look at aka.ms/m365/videos and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365 PnP. The next general dev call is 2 weeks from today, June 23rd at 7 a.m. Next Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call is at June 16th, 1 week from today at 7 a.m. You can always subscribe and get invites to all of these community calls and all the others, aka.ms/m365/community. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.